Okay, so before I get started, does anybody who here practices yoga? Okay, almost everybody. And out of those of you who practice yoga, do you have any understanding of yoga philosophy? Have you studied it or looked into any of the philosophy behind yoga? A little bit. You've done teacher training, so yeah,
It's just a little bit.
a little bit. Okay. Does anyone have any questions specifically before I start getting into whatever I'm going to tell you? No?
Where did you learn?
Where did I learn?
Yeah.
Well, I studied in an ashram in Northern California. It's Shivananda Ashram. So it's a very traditional Vedic lineage. Vedic meaning it comes from India, from that particular yogic culture that stems all the way back over 5,000 years ago. And it's run by swamis. So there are all these people dressed in orange robes, and it's a nonprofit. They run the whole place, and they have them all over the world. And has anybody ever met a swami? No. So a swami, the word swami actually means one who has control over his or her senses. Swami can be male or female. Usually they wear an orange robe, and they live a life of celibacy, and they live a life of service. So their whole life is to just serve other people, and they have a very deep, profound knowledge of yoga. And so these swamis run this ashram, this particular one in Northern California. And I stayed there for a month and a half and did a teacher training course, but it was more emphasized on the philosophy of yoga, which is why I went there. So that's where I was trained. It's actually where I got my spiritual name. I did not have cool hippie parents that named me Dharma. I was initiated into a mantra. When you get a mantra that you chant daily, then they give you a name. And your spiritual name is given to you for a reason. A lot of people nowadays, they don't like the name that their parent has given them, which is understandable. And then we want to give ourselves a new name. We want to give ourselves this new identity. And so a spiritual name is sort of that. But it's coming with a blessing. So a lot of people just give themselves their own new spiritual name. But I recommend that you wait to meet a teacher who can give you a spiritual name, because it's very important. Because when you get a spiritual name, it's something that is very much chosen specifically for who you are, and what you're doing in your life, and what your life purpose is. So often they'll look at your Vedic chart, which is an astrological chart, and they'll look at it and they'll figure out who you are, what you're doing, what your path is in life, where you're going, what you should be doing, and then they'll give you a name. And so my name was given to me, Dharma Shakti, which means she who has the strength to fulfill her purpose, or righteous strength, which sounds really nice, right? It's a very challenging path. It's really, really difficult. I found that often I face challenges and conflicts with people, especially being in a yogic business industry. There's still a lot of conflict. People's feelings get hurt, or just stuff happens. And so my friends are always reminding me, like, you're Dharma. You have to be the bigger person. It's always coming up. You're Dharma, you have to be the bigger person. You're Dharma Shakti. You're that righteous strength. And righteous strength doesn't always mean like you're right, and so you have to do it, right? Sometimes doing the right thing requires a different kind of strength. And so you have to have that humility and that courage to be the bigger person. And so I have to remember that every time people call my name, they're talking to me, they meet me, I'm reminded of who I am. I'm always reminded of the purpose that I'm here to play out. Is to live that Dharma, live the teaching. And I really, for me, yoga is so much more than just a physical practice. And so my name is a constant reminder of that desire of mine to share the philosophy of yoga, and not just the physical practice of yoga. So a lot of people practice yoga regularly. We have new people walking in. How many of you have a regular yoga practice or have tried yoga? Okay, so more than half of you in here have done yoga. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, good. So my name came from a swami, and I trained, and I studied a lot of philosophy at this ashram. We basically did 4 hours of yoga every day. We did 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening, and we did an hour of meditations. We did half hour in the morning, half hour at night. And then the rest of the day was done in service, where we would, help around on the grounds. And then a big chunk of our day, about 6 hours of our day, was philosophy. We would just sit on the floor. We weren't allowed to sit against the wall. So we learned how to train our bodies to have a straight, tall spine. And we just listened to so many lectures, different swamis coming in, and all this different philosophy. We studied the Bhagavad Gita, which is a primary text for yoga philosophy. And this is where we get a lot of the yogic principles from. Specifically, which I want to touch on today, comes from a school called Sankhya philosophy, which teaches that there are two things that make up the universe. There is spirit and there is matter. And so we have everything that is very physical, very tangible, all the stuff that's matter, right? And then we have spirit, those things that give life to those things that are made up of matter, like our bodies. Our body is matter. Right? It's made up of the 5 elements. But there's something that's giving life to our body, and that is spirit. And so when we learn to adapt this philosophy, we start to recognize that, okay, I'm not my body. I'm a spirit. This is not me, right? Because so often we identify with our bodies. We either identify with them because we really like them, or we identify with them because we dislike them. And so either way it can cause stress for us, right? Even if you like your body. You're stressed out, like, I gotta work hard, I gotta work out all the time, I gotta eat good, and oh my gosh, I ate a slice of pizza, what's that gonna do to me? I didn't make the gym today, what's that gonna do to me? I'm gonna get old, my body's gonna get wrinkled, and it still can cause you stress, even if you have a body that you really like, right? And then if you have a body that you don't like, we're just constantly thinking about how much we dislike our body and all the things that we need to do that we're not doing, right? You guys have been there, experienced this, right? And so we can step away from all of that by recognizing, I'm not this body. I'm not this body, so I don't have to get hung up on it. I don't have to be so attached to it. Like, this is just my vehicle that I was given to just make my way through this journey. And we can sort of step away from a lot of the stuff that we experience in life. And we can look at it differently, right? Like, anybody in here, a mom has given birth to children? You had your baby? No, you don't have your baby, you just have a stroller. I've had 2 children, so for me, this was really helpful when I was in labor. I'm not my body. This is just an experience that I'm having, and I can overcome this experience. Right? Have you ever had something happen that's really painful, and you're like, okay, I just have to breathe? Whether it's emotional pain or physical pain, you hurt yourself, I just have to breathe and let my body go through its experience. I can step away from this process because I'm not my body. I'm something else. And so during childbirth, it's a nice tool that you can use to sort of step back and go, this is just a process that my body was designed to go through. It has a lot of sensations. There's a lot of feelings going on, but I'm not these feelings. I'm not this experience. I'm just the witness and the observer to this experience. So I'm a spirit being, I'm a soul, having an experience. And so sometimes, if we can really anchor into this philosophy, we start to look at our life differently, right? We stop getting so hung up on, like, my body has to be perfect. Even when we practice yoga, people get really hung up on, like, I have to do the poses perfectly. I gotta look amazing in these poses. I need to look like the people in the magazines, even though half of them, their alignment is totally wrong. They're using models and not real yoga people. Right? And we get really hung up. We think, like, if I don't have the right car, people won't accept me. If I don't have the right yoga outfit, people won't accept me. If I don't practice the right kind of yoga practice, people won't accept me. If I don't have the right hairstyle, people won't accept me. Right? We have all these sort of stresses that come with identifying as this material body. You follow? Right? So when we sort of step away from that and we think, well, I'm not my car. Just because you drive your car doesn't make you your car, right? I'm not my outfit. I'm not my closet of clothes. I'm not the shoes that I wear. I'm not even my job. I'm not my responsibilities and my roles. I'm none of those things. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, right? I think it was, I can't remember the writer's name, but he said, a lot of people say, that you have a soul. You have a soul. You are a body and you have a soul. I think it was not Henry David Thoreau, somebody else. The name will come to me. But he says that you are a soul and you have a body. And yoga is really trying to teach us how to switch it up because we get so hung up. We have so much stress, right? Even stress about being sick. Just most of our stress is about looking a certain way, presenting ourselves to the world a certain way. And when we sort of step back, we start to look at ourselves differently, and we have a new respect for ourselves. And we also have a new respect for other people. I meet a lot of really amazing teachers who commit their whole life to just teaching the philosophy of yoga. And so they don't practice a lot of physical yoga, and their bodies they're not in the best shape. And I have to detach, like they're not their body. Because you meet these people who are like these yoga gurus, and like, well, why don't they have this perfect yoga body? Why aren't they super healthy? If they know Ayurvedic medicine, which is a sister science to yoga, why don't they look a certain way? Like, we put these expectations on people, and then it causes us stress. Well, do I want to study with this person? Because he doesn't look like a yogi. He's wearing the orange robe. He might have, like, some paint on his face and head shaved. But he doesn't, he's got a big belly and whatever. And so we have to step back and go, this is a soul in a body. And I have to remember that his path is different than my path. Not everybody's going to be into the physical aspect of yoga. Not everybody's going to be into the spiritual aspect of yoga. And so we have to learn to recognize that we're not really these physical bodies. Right? Who in this world is looking for equality? I hope all of us, right? Like, we want equality, right? Equal rights for everybody. We want that equality. Well, we're never going to find it in the material world. Never. That's such a bummer to hear that. I remember the first time hearing that, my heart just sank, especially as a woman. I'm like, what do you mean? We're never going to find equality if we just are always looking at each other as these human beings. Because we're not equal. We're not equal. Men, to the most degree, for the most part, are going to be stronger than women. That's the way their bodies are designed. Men are built to be stronger than women. That's not to say that there aren't some really strong women out there. But on a general scale, men are stronger than women. Women tend to be more compassionate and kind than men do. That's not to say that men can't be compassionate and kind, that there aren't men out there like that, but women are more ingrained to naturally be this way, right? You still with me? Yeah? Okay. So when we look at each other on a physical aspect, we're never going to find equality. It's never going to happen. But if we start to look at each other as spiritual beings, you're a spirit soul in a female body. You're a spirit soul in a male body. Okay, that's just your vehicle. That's what you're given. But you're a spirit soul. We're equal as spiritual beings. Now we're equal. Now we find equality. Now we start to see each other, respecting each other as equals, because we're not looking at each other as just human beings. Make sense? Right? I know, that was like, what? There's no equality in this world? It really can hit us kind of hard. Right? And so it's really important. For me, this is why I decided to teach yoga. I've been teaching yoga for almost 10 years. And I practiced a lot of physical yoga. I liked it to stay healthy and stay in shape, but I started learning a lot of the philosophy, and I just thought, why aren't there more people teaching this stuff? Like, this is gold. This stuff here is just really golden knowledge, and everybody's getting into like the physical stuff, right? This is what's happening to yoga. There's a big sort of resurgence of yoga, especially here in the West, and it's going two ways. One is very physical. And if you want that very physical, go to LA and take some yoga classes. Then there's very spiritual, right? And sort of they're branching off into two places. And they're both great. Physical yoga is really good, right? And spiritual yoga is also really good. And what we want to do, what's really going to help heal our communities and heal us as individuals, is when we blend the two. When we're doing the physical yoga to keep the body temple really healthy and really clean, right? Because if we're not this body, then why would we even care about it, right? Well, because we live in it. We live in this body, and so we want to keep it functioning, we want to keep it healthy, we want to keep it happy, because when the material body starts to break down and it starts to get sick, or we have injuries and we're limited on what we can do, then our soul suffers, our spirit suffers, because we're limited in how we can get around. It's just like when your car has car problems. You suffer, right? I can't get to work, I can't go see my friends, I'm stuck in my house, it's going to cost me a lot of money to fix it, I might have to buy a new one. Right? We have all these thoughts and suffering and stress that come with it. And so we want to keep our bodies healthy and clean so that we can journey through life, right, and function and go to places that we need to go and do the works that we need to do. But we also want to keep it clean so that our soul can really shine through very brightly. Right? It's like a lamp covering. Anybody here dust their house regularly? I don't. Don't be afraid if you don't. If you do, that's great. I'm so glad that you keep your house clean. But sometimes those the lampshades get really dusty, right? Well, imagine your body is like a lampshade that's very dusty. And the practice and the process of yoga, physical yoga, is like dusting off that lampshade. So the light can really shine, really, really bright. When there's all that dust on there, the light isn't getting out. And so when we do the physical stuff, whether you do basic gentle yoga, or you do beginner yoga, or you do advanced yoga, or you do hot yoga, or you do vinyasa yoga, whatever kind of physical yoga you do, all of it is designed to clean that dust out. It's designed to keep the body really pure so that your beautiful divine light can start to shine out and radiate. Right? Because we have all these coverings. We have all these things that we identify with. I'm my age. I am my job. Who's really proud of their college degree that they have? It's okay, raise your hand. Really proud of your college degree? Yeah, own it. It's cool. But you're not your college degree, right? What happened if somebody take your college degree away? Would you feel less of yourself? Only if you really identified with yourself as that degree, right? What if you lose a finger? Do you feel less of yourself? Not really. Right? So we have this body, but we have these conditionings where we really identify with our material possessions, and we think that that's what we are. And then those things are inevitably taken away from us. Inevitably. Youth is taken away from us, right? Sometimes our hair falls out, our hair is taken away from us. Our cars are taken away from us. Either, they get impounded, or they break down, you have to get a new one, somebody wrecks it and they crash into you, right? Things are taken away from us. They are. And my teachers are always telling me, you can let go gracefully, or you can let go painfully. And yoga is the process of learning how to let go gracefully. We're not these material possessions. We're not our body, right? And when we can start to separate and recognize that and really own that belief, then we're not so disturbed when somebody wrecks our car. Well, it's just a car. I'll get a new one. Right? Oh, well, I got fired. It's okay. I'll get a new job. But we get so hung up on this is what I am. Totally identifying with this thing. And so we have to learn to step back from that and just really remember that all this stuff is very temporary. And so the practice of yoga does this. It helps us to clean the body, clean the mind. There are other techniques that we use besides physical yoga to clean the mind. We do chanting, we do meditation, and you want to clean your mind. What you put into your, we're so concerned about what we put into our physical body, but we're often not as concerned about what we put into our mental body. Right? I remember being young and watching a lot of horror movies. All of a sudden I was in this phase where I was really into horror movies. A bunch of my friends were into it. I think that's why I was into it. And I look back and I'm I can't believe I was putting all that into my psyche. Anybody watch that movie Rosemary? It was a crazy, crazy movie. I'm why did I even watch that movie? It's insane, but it's in my psyche now. It's in my consciousness now. And so we have to really be aware of what we put into our mental body too. Right? And so yoga is a big science. It's a very, very big science. And there are many aspects to yoga. And I just want to touch specifically on this one philosophy, Sankhya philosophy, spirit and matter. Everything is made up of spirit and matter in this universe. And we are in a body that is matter, material, but we give life to that body through our spirit. And the connection is the breath, right? What happens to the body when there's no more breath in the body? It expires. Right? Over some time it expires. There's no more life. So we can make a logical assumption that the breath is what keeps us connected and keeps our spirit connected to our body. And so yoga also emphasizes a lot of breath work, breath control. Really you're making sure to breathe deep. Because as you breathe in deeply, you're keeping that connection alive. If you're just letting the material body do its automatic job and just breathe very shallow breath, it's just the material body working. But if you're taking those deep inhalations, long exhalations, and you're conscious of your breath, then you're keeping that spirit really connected to your body. Because so often we get really lost in this world. We think that this is it, right? It's easy to do that because our society is sort of designed to keep us kind of plugged into the rat race. And we forget that there's more. We forget that we're here to share our gifts. We're here to make this world a really beautiful place by sharing our beauty, which is our divinity. And we forget that. because we're all caught up in the material stuff. And we forget to breathe. So we forget that, like, okay, I'm going to make this deep connection and breathe in. Right? And so the more we start to clean our bodies and clean our mind, what we put into it and how we treat it, how we take care of it, and the more we dust away all the dirt, the more we're breathing consciously and remembering the things that are really important, the more our beauty begins to shine. Right? The more that divinity begins to radiate out, and then the happier we become. And then people around us are like, oh, what are you doing? You've changed completely. Like, your face looks different, your skin color is different, you're smiling all the time. What are you doing? And it becomes infectious. We're like, what are you doing? I want to do that. Like, I have a student who comes to my class. She's this little Hispanic lady, regular life, has a regular job, big Hispanic family, and her coworkers think she's crazy now because they're like, you're always smiling. You're always happy. Something is wrong. What are you doing? You drank the Kool-Aid, they tell her. And she's like, no, I'm just really, I'm just happy. I see life differently. I just see the world differently now. And the things that used to really stress her out don't stress her out as much anymore. She's able to manage that stress. Right? So when we have this perspective of the world being material, and us being spirit, we also get to go one step higher. I'm going to close the talk with this. We have to go one step higher. Where does that spirit emanate from? Where is it coming from? It's coming from a source, right? Some kind of source. I'm not here to tell you what that source is. That's for you to figure out. And yoga is a beautiful journey that can help you uncover what that source is for you. But when you begin to connect to that source that is giving you life, your soul and the super soul, then it's like, okay, now there's somebody actually out there. Anybody heard of Michael Beckwith? He's from Agape. He says that the universe is a friendly place. And I definitely believe this to be true. But you got to have a friendship with that universe. You got to have a relationship with that friendly universe. And so when you can connect to your own spirit and you start to bring that to life, then you're like, okay, what else is there? There's something else. There's something higher than this. Who is this great spirit? Who is this universe, the divine, whatever you want to call it? There's so many names for it except God. Nobody likes to say God anymore. It's always like the universe is speaking to me. I just like to be one with nature. We have all these terms, but nobody wants to say the word God. I'm just going to say it, God. When we can connect to that and know that it's friendly, then it starts to work with us. Okay? So yoga is this great science that allows us to connect to ourselves as spirit and to some great spirit, whatever that is for you. Okay? Any questions? We're good?
It's all clear now.
It's all clear now. Any questions on that little bit? No? Okay. I think you have a question. Go ahead.
Does yoga has a great influence with Hinduism?
Yes. Hinduism is a very broad term for all the different traditions in India. So there's no one particular tradition that is Hindu. People ask me all the time, are you Hindu? And that's why I said Vedic. So Vedic tradition is based off of the texts, the spiritual texts in India, the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, all these old books. And there's so many traditions that come out of these books. And so Hindu is like a term that the British gave the Indians because they couldn't figure out what to call these different people who had all these different beliefs. So they just called them all Hindus. And it's actually derives from a derogatory term of a particular tribe of Indians that lived on a certain side of the Indus River, and the British were calling them Hindus. We don't regard it as a derogatory term these days, but just know that, Hindu, people will understand what you're saying when you say Hindu. But their more proper term would be Vedic. And so, yoga stems from India. It comes from India, and it has very deep roots in Vedic traditions. And there's so many different traditions within India. So many different. And I recommend that you explore them, pick up some books and read about them. Because they're all different, and we're all different. So you're going to find what works for you. If you guys want to get some information on yoga, we have a booth, kind of that on that end of the park. And we have our yoga sign out on the top of our booth. You can't miss it. But we have schedules for our studio, and we do the free yoga on the bluff out here. So we make yoga really, really accessible. We think that, we want everybody to have access to yoga all the time, regardless of your paycheck. because when you're not making the money, that's when you're stressed the most and you really need yoga. So come check it out. We're also putting a festival together in August. We have flyers for that. It'll be a big yoga festival that we'll be having just across the street here. So come chat with us. You can ask me any questions over there at the booth. I'll be there to the end of the event.
What's the
today.
sign say on your booth?
It says Yogalution Movement.
And just bring
Ireland.
yourself to the free yoga. You don't have to even move. You can just sit there and listen to that. It feels good.
Thank you all for coming.